What's up, guys? Flippin' Steve here, back with a video today where I'm going to talk about flipping cards and how you can limit your losses and still leave yourself some room for some gains. So limiting risk, getting some money back from your initial investment or the money that you put out there, and also trying to save yourself some cards on the other end that you feel like still have more potential to get yourself some gains on the other end. So what we're going to talk about again, limiting loss, not maximizing gains because you are taking away some of your gamble, but leaving yourself some gains on the other side. First, we got to run down to the post office because I have two cards in here that I just sold. We're going to talk about those because I'm going to use a recent flip strategy and prospecting method that I had recently or as an example for this video. Daisy, you ready to go? Come on. Get in. All right. This package that I'm about to drop off here at the post office is 2 Sam Darnold cards. So that makes 4 Sam Darnold sales this week. So I'm starting to feel pretty good, a lot more safe about my purchase on the Sam Darnolds, because I'm starting to recoup some of my initial buy-in. All right, so that's what I'm going to talk about in this video, recovering some of your initial buy-in, but also leaving yourself room on the other side to make some money and not just breaking even. So let's go ahead and dive into what I'm talking about. Now, there's multiple ways to flip cards. There is buying in bulk and piecing out, the cards in singles. There is buying raw and grading to flip. And there is also prospecting on younger players or players that haven't been forgotten about or whatever, just prospecting in general on a player or a card that you think has potential to gain value. Now, the third that I mentioned, prospecting, is going to be your biggest gamble. Sometimes it's going to be your biggest risk reward. Not normally a huge gamble when you're buying raw to graded, as long as you got a good eye for cards. And when you're buying bulk lots and piecing them out, people, that's a lot of times people's profession, and that's what they do. But when you're looking for the quick flip and less work, you're looking for prospecting, but it is going to be your biggest gamble before I even get into this. And another thing that I want to mention is you got to prepare yourself for losses. You have to be able to accept the fact that sometimes it's just not going to work out. In fact, a majority of the time, it probably won't work out. Sometimes you get lucky. In this case, what I'm going to talk about here. It's also very important to have your exit strategy, not necessarily who you're going to sell to, because you never know who was going to buy your cards unless you have repeat buyers and you set up at shows and you have people in your relationships that you make throughout the hobby that you can target with certain cards. But if you're going to sell online, you never know who your buyers are going to be. And you want to take into account where you're going to sell. That's really going to be important, because if you're talking about selling in person, a lot of times you're going to sell at a slight discount probably, but you're going to have limited fees and you're not going to have shipping. If you're selling online, you got to take into account, I'm going to have fees and I'm going to have shipping. Most of the time the buyer will cover the shipping, especially if it's specified up front. But you want to take into effect right off the top that you're going to have fees, especially when you're looking at your profit margins at the end. Now that we got that part out of the way, I want to talk about my strategy in this style of flip that I just did. You guys, if you followed the channel, you know that I've been buying Sam Darnold cards, or I haven't been. I've been started buying Sam Darnold cards probably back in February or March. I put up front $1,000 to spend, and that's what I wanted to spend, and that's what I spent. Now, going into this, I had said to myself, worst case scenario, I'm going to get out of these cards if they take a 60% hit, and I'm going to recover $400 of my original $1,000, costing me $600. Also, I went into it with the mentality of, I bought all of these cards kind of as singles for $1,000, but when I go to sell them, I would like to sell a majority of them off at the same time, if that makes sense. I just didn't want to piece them out individually. And yeah, I know when you sell in bulk, you often offer discounts. But in this, I was taking a different approach to it, to the point to where I wanted to sell them off as individual cards until I recouped some of my initial buy-in. And that's the main focus of this video. So Sam Darnold cards have seen a bit of a tick, a bit of a rise in price due to the fact that he was just simply named the backup quarterback for the 49ers, but there are people who still believe in him. More importantly, they believe in that team and that offense, and the fact that even if he got on the field, he would perform just based around his supporting cast. We've seen it with Brock Purdy, and nobody really knows what to expect out of Brock Purdy as he's coming into his first, major real starting the season as the 49ers quarterback. That's neither here nor there, because I don't want to portray this as a Sam Darnold video as much as it is just the strategy used. Apply it to whatever player you want to use. But my strategy here was to start selling off some of the lower end Sam Darnolds that I bought, which was originally 15 cards. Okay, it was 15 cards for $1,000. When I did the math, I kind of needed to sell each card for about $67 to break even, around $27 per card to recoup my initial $400 if I was going to take that loss. And right now, I'm halfway there. I'm halfway home. I'm still in the red, but I'm climbing my way back to even to eventually get into the green. So what I have done is I've sold 4 Sam Darnold cards now, and I've netted approximately $500. Somewhere between $475 and $500 I have netted. So my plan was to sell a couple of the Sam Darnolds, which is 4. I'll show you a Prism BGS 10 Neon Pulsar, 2 Prism Silvers PSA 10s, and one Prism Green Crystals numbered out of 75 in a PSA 10. That's the 4 that I've sold, and I've already recouped nearly half of my initial buy-in after fees. So now I'm looking at 11 more Sam Darnold cards that are still my high-end cards because I'm recouping with the lower end. I know they're Prism Silvers and they're some nice cards, but compared to the other ones that I bought, they are the ones that aren't serial numbered. They're not the RPAs and things like that. And I've recouped half of my money. So the way I look at this is I still have 11 Sam Darnold cards, multiple RPAs, Immaculates, Flawless. I have some select tie-dye PSA 10 out of 25, just some higher end ones. And I've sold off the lower end to get back 50% of my initial buy-in. And I didn't sell them off based on, hey, I got to make this much per card. That's the one thing I want you to take away from this. In the end, when I sell all 15, I need to be over 1,000. Not I need to sell this card for this much, this card for this much. A couple of these cards I paid $75 for. I sold for like $160. So yeah, I doubled my money. But then there's others where I bought for like $80 and sold for like $115. So again, I made $35. So it's not all big time profits, but you scratch and you claw to get your money back. And then it's kind of smooth sailing where even if the ones that are remaining tank, you're probably going to break even. And if something happens that's very positive, then you're really looking at rolling in the dough on the higher end cards that you kept. You've already cut out half of your risk because you've gotten back $500 of your initial investment. For me now, all I have at stake is $500, and I still have 11 really nice Sam Darnold cards. Whether that works out or whether it doesn't, it's the safe way to play it in my mind. Also leaving myself some risk and some gambling to make some bigger money on the other end. So if that makes sense to you guys, I hope that it does. But spend your money wisely. Look for players that aren't too expensive, that have a chance to move the needle, that's not impossible. When you look at some of the other younger quarterbacks that you could put your money into, their prices are already so high, there's already so much baked in, that they really have to do something extraordinary for their cards to see any kind of increase in market value. Someone who's completely forgotten about, falling off the planet, super cheap cards, and all they got to do is show that they have a pulse and that they can still play in the league, that they're still around, for people to be reminded of, hey, this card was once valuable, maybe I'll make a play on it again. So if you take anything away from this video, make sure your price points are right, make sure you know how you want to sell, take into account your fees, get some of your money back. If you want to sell until you get it all back and then you have just a couple cards that will be 100% profit, like for example, I have 11 cards remaining. If I want to sell off 5 or 6 of those for $100 a piece, or even 8 of those at an average of, an average of $75 a piece or whatever to get me back to 1,000, anything that I have once I reach that $1,000 recovery mark is profit, and it doesn't matter what I sell it for. If I sell a total of 12 of my Sam Darnold cards and get my $1,000 back and I'm still holding 3 cards, I could sell each of those 3 cards for $1 and I'm making money. So again, get back to certain plateaus that you're comfortable with. That could be 25% of your buy-in. That could be half. That could be all of it. And it's going to be different for everybody because everybody's going to have a different mentality. But I just want to throw that out there at you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to go take a swim. Look how red and hot my face is getting just talking about Sam Darnold, talking about flipping cards. It's fun. It's a gamble. It can pay off. Most of the time you can lose, but when you win, it feels good. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Fantasy football starts tomorrow. See ya. Eating some steak tonight, boys.